Hi, everyone. I am glad to be back with some really cool reading updates and some future reading plans that I'm excited about, and also to fill you in on everything that I've been up to in the last month. And I'm sitting on my bay window. There's a tree that's right there that looks like it's part of a giant tree, but it's not. It actually just like arcs over the driveway a little bit, but it puts out, as you can see, flaming red and orange leaves. I think it's a fig tree. I could be making that up, but I'll put a correction here if I'm wrong. But wow. I mean, it's really lighting up this year, and it's a rainy day today, which it hasn't been in a long time. We're lucky enough that we've been getting a lot of sun. Anyway, so I had to share, and Suki's here. Suki is here with us, which I'm sure she will be while I go sit on the floor here in the living room. So yeah, let's catch up. The other thing I wanted to say, I'm forgetting already, is that this is my 3-year booktube anniversary. It came up, I don't know how I knew that, but I think it was like October 17th, 3 years ago. It's been one of the absolute delights to have OGs here and new people that are finding me, viewers that are connecting the booktube channel with now the knitting channel. And I just wanted to say thank you for being here, whether it's all 3 years or a couple of those years or just a month. I love engaging with all of you through the comments. Now on to the book. I think when we left off, well, I was talking about fall reads recommendations, which I have a couple more as they've come up in my mind. I also have notes, especially on a book that I think I was talking about in my last video, the Trollope book, because I have so much to say. I don't want to forget, so I apologize that I might be looking at my notes, which I don't normally have. So I just thought I'd bring that up. Okay, where we left off. Oh, first, so where we left off was, I think I was planning on reading Daniel Deronda by George Eliot. I hope I have that right. I didn't bring it down. And The American Senator by Anthony Trollope, a book that I had just stumbled on after listening. I think it was the Mooks and the Gripes, Paul and Trevor, who might have mentioned it in an offhand way because they're Trollope fans, as a read along. No, it was actually Simon Hazel from Footnotes and Tangents on Instagram, on Bookstagram, who runs quite a few read alongs. He mentioned that a woman named Claire LaPorte, who is the duck-billed reader, was running a read along of The American Senator by Anthony Trollope. And it piqued my interest immediately because I'm a big Trollope reader, if you're new here, and I've read the Barsetshire Chronicles series, and I am working my way through and almost done with the, what's it called? It's not the Eustace Diamond series, the Palliser series. And I was getting a little sad that I had just finished Phineas Redux, and I might have just one more book to go or two of that series. And then I heard about The American Senator. And I thought, that's a weird name for a Trollope book. His publisher thought so too. It was published in 1877, which was, I think, right after he published Phineas Redux. And he was adamant, though, that he wanted the book named The American Senator. Now, I really thought that the book would be therefore centered on this American senator, whose name is, believe it or not, Mr. Gotobed, Gotobed. This is Trollope at his naming characters' finest. You will just be tickled to death if you ever read a Trollope book. because of his naming of characters. Not all of them have funny names like Go to Bed, but plenty of them do, and it's just part of the fun. So, the American Senator, I will just try to sum it up by saying, first of all, Claire LaPorte is doing a great job over on Substack. If you read any summaries about this book, which I recommend not, because I didn't read, I got this book in, I ordered it, I ordered the Oxford University Press edition because they didn't have a Black Penguin edition that I could get my hands on. I didn't read any of it. I never do. Trollope books and most books, I try not to read the blurb. So I didn't know what this was about. My description of what it's about, and Trollope actually says, I wished to express the depths of my scorn for women who run down husbands, an offense that I do fear is gaining ground in this country. So the main character, Arabella Trefoil, or what people call the main character, is a beautiful anti-heroine. And I think that the reason she's called an anti-heroine is that just like the main character in the Eustace Diamonds, Lizzie, she's not very likable. However, just like Lizzie, and I hope I have that name right, she is so nuanced that even if she does frustrating, hurtful things, you still will probably at some points feel empathy. You'll understand how she's interpreting her life goal, which in the first 20 or 30 years of her life is to find someone to marry. I'm saying 20 to 30 because there's another young woman in this story who I consider the other main character, female character. And one of them's like 20 and the other's 30, like way beyond the fact that they should be married by now. So Annabella Trefoil, Trollope makes her very complex, just as he does the second main character, Mary Masters, in my mind. He makes both of them very complex because they are on the brink of classes. So they have some higher class people in their family, but far enough removed that they themselves do not have any money. That's the same with Mary Masters, but in a different way. So Arabella Trefoil is a penniless niece of a duke, and she and her mother spend their time, their job is to find someone for Arabella to marry. The trick, the complicating factor in her story is that she's already engaged to someone, but you do find that that might just be like something in her back pocket. And so the story unfolds and there's intrigue into what happens if you're thinking about trading up. Many things could happen in that scenario because there's a risk. There's a risk on that end, and then there's a risk about the thing in your back pocket, and it's more layered than that, which is so cool about this book. It's not a movie. It feels like a movie. And so the other storyline, Mary Masters, is really cool, and I enjoyed it as much because she is the daughter of someone who was married to a person that was of a little higher standing than he was. She died. Mary Masters' mom died. She was raised for a time, or for quite a while, by, I think it was an aunt, Lady Ushant, who was a lady. She doesn't necessarily have very much money now, but she was raised like a lady in that atmosphere. I don't know at what point her dad gets remarried, but the person he remarries is, shock and horror, the daughter of an ironmonger. She is very working class, so therefore she feels Mary Masters comes off as a lady, but it has airs about her. The American senator is in the story, Mr. Go-To-Bed. He's visiting from DC. He's the guest of, I think, the Morton family, which is another family in the story. And Trollope uses him as a device to, it says, Trollope dishes out some fairly pointed satire on British customs through the device of Mr. Go-To-Bed, because he's viewing things, this is 1877, he's viewing things as like, okay, how does this church hierarchy thing work? As he's meeting people in the towns and villages that are part of the Church of England, and the whole fox hunting thing. What is fox hunting really about? It's an industry, a sport that is normally done by the wealthy and supported by people whose job it is to support the horses and the foxes, is up there with one of my favorite Anthony Trollope's. I hope I haven't spoken too much about it. Cannot recommend this enough. This Anthony Trollope. It's a standalone book, so you don't have to get into a series. I found it a little dry in the beginning, but I don't remember why. So I would just say to that, keep on going. Okay. Our little Tuki, whose name is really Suki. The next book I'm reading that I probably mentioned in that video is one that was definitely recommended by Nora from pear.jelly on Instagram. If you're not following Nora, please check her out, because her taste and breadth of taste in books is amazing. And I don't use that word lightly. So this was a book she read, or recommended and read, for Spinster September. And I had read Mrs. Pomfrey at the Claremont by Elizabeth Taylor. What is that name? Palfrey at the Claremont, 1971. I've heard other people talk about Angel, so I wasn't sure whether I was actually going to like it. There was a way that it was described, not by Nora, but by some other people, that I thought, I don't know. I don't know about this. Backlisted might have talked about this book. I could be totally off on that. But this is going to be another favorite read of mine in 2025. That's how good this is. I am attracted to books that are unusual for the time they were written in. Now, that's really not that true for this one, because it was written in 1971. If I was putting money on when this was written, I would have said like 1945 or something. I didn't know it was written in the 70s, because I don't know, it feels like the kind of book that would go right along with a Rosamund Lehman book type of writing. So I'm surprised by the 70s. But again, anti-heroine. In a way, I think it's meant that, just like with Arabella Trefoil, you're going to have complex feelings about Angel. This woman, irascible, maybe is the word. The story of Angel and her early days, but then when she gets older and goes out on her own and decides that this writing thing could actually be a thing, she is the most ardent promoter of her own self. Now, in those early years, she's worried about people finding out about her past. So she's created this other past, which I feel like it almost feels like she has taken on as the actual truth, because she's able to speak to it as if it is the truth. So she's that kind of character, but she's also a very steadfast champion of herself. There are times that she is very unlikable, and yet you can't not be also a champion of her drive and her belief in herself. It's complicated. It's so complicated. I mean, this is how Elizabeth Taylor writes. Mrs. Palfrey at the Claremont might sound like it's an older lady who goes to a retirement home, and it's more nuanced than that. It's one of the only movies that I've seen that's been made out of a book that I've watched and absolutely love. This book is so nuanced and full of ups and downs emotionally. Plot-wise, yeah, but you just don't know where it's going. Is she just going to burn all her bridges? Is she ever going to have anyone on her side? Somehow she does, but will they last? Will she just be so eventually incorrigible? This is Elizabeth Taylor's tour de force, a novel quite different from her other work. Yeah, despite me reading this all the time at night, I still have this much to go because I'm not hurrying my way through this. No way. I'm just enjoying it too much. All right, so many things have happened since my last video. I might have mentioned that my daughter got married or was getting married. And then days after that, we left for the New York Sheep and Wool Festival in upstate New York in the Hudson Valley. I had a wonderful time there. I took this book with me, and I took Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse, which I want to reread. I actually didn't read at all. I was so exhausted in the evening that I just didn't read before going to sleep. So interesting. I almost never do that. Even if I just read one page, it somehow clicks in my brain and then I go to sleep. But no, not at all. I didn't touch these two books that I had in my suitcase. It's so weird. Then at a yarn shop that we just at the last minute decided we were close to after having lunch with friends on Sunday, we went over across the river, the Hudson River, to Saugerties and went to a yarn shop called The Perfect Blend, which a lot of people during this New York Sheep and Wool weekend go to. I ran into somebody who not only knew me from my knitting channel, her name's Casey, but then she started talking to me about some books that she had picked up, including Dusty Answer by Rosamund Lehman. I was blown away. It was so much fun running into Casey. We're not only talking about stuff that she's seen on my knitting video where I made something she was commenting on, but then she's talking about books that I've talked about that she's into. Oh my God, what a capper to that weekend. I'm going to mention one thing since it's also my birthday. And I'm a Scorpio through and through. I had gotten this book out of the library, Selbu Mittens. It's a beast of a book and so many colored photos that it's heavy. This was written by Anna Bardsgard. I'm assuming she's Norwegian since Selbu is a town in Norway. I got this out of the library and I started looking for it online. I heard about it through a knitting podcast, which I'll link below, called Barnaby Knits, Tiny Desk Knitting. And Emma does a lot of color work, and she has this book, but she specifically said that it's out of print and good luck getting your hands on it. And so that's why I got it out of the library. But it didn't do me a lot of good getting it out of the library because it's so dense with stuff that I didn't even have time to look at more than a couple pages. You can get a digital copy, but that's not good for me. This has too much information in it for me to have a digital copy. So my husband, I think he heard me talking about it. He saw it when I had it out from the library. He went searching until he found a copy that wasn't horrendously expensive, but they're hard to find. And I think he found one on eBay, but they're expensive. And I would never have bought one for myself. So I am so delighted. These are all older Selbu mittens. Selbu mittens were specifically done in black and white color work. And Selbu was a town that made its living on millstone. I'm not quite sure what that means, But when that went dry, I guess there was a quarry of stone that they made into millstones. Millstones were really important in that time. And when that dried up, because they had this tradition of black and white yarn that they would make, and women, men, and children took up the art of making these Selbu mittens, which are distinctive in that they end in triangles. Not just Selbu mittens end in triangles. It's a very Norwegian thing, but they do have, a lot of them have this distinctive, I think this is called the 8-pointed rose. 4 points and then I think that's what it is. Or maybe the 8 points or is this. That's a traditional mitten. Yes, these are the tops of the mittens, and they would have a very distinctive, different stitch pattern for the cuff. But here are the palms of the mitten, the inside. And then the thumbs would have their own motifs. I just have a couple pages here. And then they broke out from the original, and they have all of these historic patterns. This book has over 500 charts. So all of these are charted. I'll just show you a really quick blip. But I just wanted to show you more of these mittens. Look at that color work. And then they'll have chart. I will just flash this as a way for you to understand charts. This is a lifetime treasury. I love building a library around my hobby now. Like, I've never done that before. On my horizon, I was thinking about some other fall reads that I read in this atmospheric weather time of year where it gets darker earlier. Something that came to mind that I've been thinking about is Muriel Spark. Muriel Spark is an interesting one because why this came to my mind is I was culling books and deciding what I was going to donate. And one of those books is Muriel Spark's The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie, which was an interesting book. It has not quite as abrupt or unusual a turn as Lolly Willow's, but it's just that Miss Jean Brodie is a teacher in a schoolroom, and I don't know, early 1900s maybe, and is very unusual and non-standard. So to read that book and then to pick up at the library Driver's Seat by Muriel Spark. Driver's Seat is considered like this gothic psychological thriller. It's really weird to put those two together coming from the same author. It's a book about alienation, isolation. I don't know. I would say this. First of all, it has one of the worst book covers I've ever seen. It really bothers me, the weirdness of the cover that you mostly see from this book. It's weird from the start. The Lise, the main character, works in an accounting office. You aren't given very much detail about her. You know she's going on vacation, which is also, I think, unusual for her, to another town. I think she lives in Northern Europe. It's guessed, assumed, and she's going to like Southern Europe, presumably to meet a boyfriend. But then something is revealed to the reader as you're reading it that is really bizarre. So this type of book, people say, comes out of nowhere, and is probably a book that, I don't know, Muriel Spark really needed to write. It's so weird and captivating. It's a small, short book. You almost feel like you have to read it from start to finish. And I have always wanted to reread it. I often think about, like, I can remember where I was when I was reading it. It's that kind of book. So that will be a reread for me. I cannot wait to experience that book again because I was blown away, especially in that short period of time where the book exists. Again, I would recommend not looking up anything about this book. I must have heard about it from either a podcast or a booktube channel, and then just certainly didn't look at the back of the book, where often there can be more information than I want. So that's a reread for me. And I have read all of Brandon Taylor's novels. He has a new one out called Minor Black Figures. It looks interesting, and I have it on hold at the library, so I'm waiting for that to come in. And Real Life, his first novel, and didn't it win the Booker Prize that year, remains my favorite. The Late Americans was fine. I felt I was confused by the similarity between some characters, and it could have been that I was reading it on vacation, and that probably wasn't the right place. But yeah, I love Brandon Taylor. If you're not following him on Instagram, it's worth it. It's worth it, in my opinion. You learn a lot about Brandon Taylor through his Instagram. He's a super interesting person, and obsessed is the right word with tennis. A very serious tennis player in New York City. Other than that, I will now try to turn back to Daniel Deronda as I'm finishing this up. I will probably then turn to the Lighthouse, and we'll see when other holds come in for me at the library, and I'll keep you posted. Thank you for joining me, for being here for 3 years or 2 years or 1 year or however long. I really appreciate it. Oh my God, you have to look. I had to capture that moment. I will be back sooner rather than later, because I think as I finish up this book and start other ones, I will be very eager to keep you posted on them. As always, let me know what you're reading right now. Please make recommendations down in the comment on anything that we've talked about here or what you're reading. Thanks for subscribing. If you've subscribed, I really appreciate it. And I'll see you soon. Bye.